Gonna mute mics, or unmute mics. All yours, Trey.
Call this meeting of the Victoria Senior Advisory Committee to order, and we'll do the roll call. Richard's here, Dave Kleinfelder's here, Patrick's here, and Lena's here. So we're good, right? You can record that. Do we have any petitions, proclamations, suggestions, or complaints? Melissa?
None from me. You know, I do have some events, but these are all the same that we talked about just a couple of weeks ago. So I'll just refresh your memory, but I won't get into them in detail. Just a reminder, we do have the Health and Wellness Expo coming up in January. That's hosted by the Chamber, so get that added to your calendar. Light of Victoria is this Thursday. Unfortunately, it's the only really cold day throughout the week, so we're hoping that the weatherman might be incorrect and that we'll see some 30 degrees on Thursday evening, just to keep it a little bit warmer than the teens. And then the Bingo Bash, just getting that on your calendar. We still haven't published the winter brochure, but it will be coming out soon. And then, still missed that typo. I don't know how I forgot that. But the flu vaccine for Carver County, at the Carver County Government Center is going to be this week and then throughout December. So that is all I have.
Any committee members have anything to add? We're good? We'll move on to minutes. And is there a motion to approve the minutes from November 20?
I so move.
Thanks, Richard. We have a second? Lena seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll go on to new business. Since there's no old business, we're going to call on Alyssa to run through our senior resource guide update.
Wonderful. I'm going to try and make this a little bigger as we go through this. So, as we have been through multiple times before, each December we go through the senior resource guide and make some edits, make some adjustments, make some additions, so it's ready for 2025 or the next year's publication. So throughout this last couple of months, we've been getting updates from various community members and businesses. So we've been adjusting it along the way. And then for today's conversation, I've redlined those changes so then we can get those updated on our website and then the print copy as well. So I'm just going to run through the redline changes. This is in the agenda packet. And if you see anything that you want to make changes on, please let me know. Like, this isn't in stone, so like this is what we're here to do today, is just make sure that everything's correct or it looks right. And if there's any changes, we can make sure that before it goes to print. So with that, I'm just going to scroll down. So I didn't make any changes to the general information, so I'm going to skip that for now. If there's any changes, I did make them in the main document, and then I'll make the adjustments if everything's okay in the main document to this kind of general document or general information page. And the letter from the mayor. One of the changes that we updated, and this is a new section, is, and it's kind of hard to see in that dark red and that dark blue, but, and also with that being said, don't worry about formatting. Once you do track changes and the redlining, formatting gets a little odd. So once everything is accepted, we'll make sure that the formatting is cleaned up so it looks nice when it is available for the public to see. But anyway, so the first area that we added was the Victoria Fire Department. Last year, we added a section for the city of Victoria, just a general information, something that we didn't have in years prior. We decided to extend that this year to include their non-emergency information. How do you reach out to the fire department if you have questions? Obviously, their emergency information, and some just additional programs and information that the fire department offers. A lot of this happens to be on our website, but if you don't know what to look for, or the search terms, or you're just not familiar with the website, we thought this would be a really good addition. So we did have information on the outdoor warning sirens. We do get questions about that every single year once the weather warms up and the sirens start again, or at November time when they don't hear the sirens and they're wondering why. The sirens only run from March to October. And then we added fire department programs. So like I said, the formatting's a little off, so there is no spacing here. There will be that spacing there. But there is fire alarm and carbon monoxide alarm battery checks that the fire department does if you need assistance. Can't climb ladders or it's just too high of a ceiling, they'll be able to come out, change your batteries. or do replacements for you. They do blood pressure checks at the fire station if anyone is interested in that. And then they do offer Knox commercial products. And I shouldn't say offer, but they do work with that program. So if anyone has a Knox box, which is something you can have outside of your home, outside of your business, they'll be able to have a key to plug into that. So instead of breaking open your door during emergencies, they can use that knock box to then access your home. So it's just another avenue in case of emergencies.
A knockbox is something that opens the door to your house?
It's like there's a box at the exterior of your house that you can put like a key or code in.
Oh, and they,
So then the fire department has their own key. It's more of a universal thing that they can go in, unlock it. Let's say there's a fire or they're responding to a medical emergency. Instead of breaking your door, they can access that and then enter your house safely.
and nobody else can get one of those keys, right?
Correct. Yep.
Hey, there's a typo up above on that.
Oh, where did you see it?
Severe.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
I was just gonna ask, so the National Weather Service does a separate check of our sirens here locally, which I know was kind of unexpected this year. It didn't come on Wednesday, the first Wednesday of the month at 1 p.m. And a couple of my neighbors were really alarmed by that. Is that something that we could add to this so people know what's coming?
I would have to find more information specifically about when the National Weather Service does do that. We can make that addition.
I'm just looking online right now, so I'll try to find it, but
Yeah.
they don't come on the first Wednesday of the month at 1 p.m. It's a separate time.
And some other fun tidbit information, Minnesota doesn't require agencies to do outdoor siren testing, and they don't even actually require a specific time. However, a lot of agencies in Carver County manages our outdoor warning siren alarm system and the testing for that. But what I'm trying to get at is, even though the state doesn't mandate that you have to do it at 1 p.m. on the first Wednesday, all of the municipalities and counties in Minnesota have worked together to make sure that is the universal time for Minnesota to conduct these testing. So just more of a fun tidbit to that. So yeah, if we have the national weather time frame, and I can do some digging on that afterwards too, we can add that on there. We just had some change in phone numbers, so you'll see that, as well as some change in websites to some caregiver supports. Resources. We did add a section, and this is under, or not a section, we did add a resource under financial. Within the last year, Trellis has added pension and retirement rights, just a service that they provide to help people talk through and walk through some of the benefits that they might have once they get into that retirement age. So we wanted to include that on here. Minor changes to health and wellness phone numbers. We did change some things to the Community Action Partnership, or CAP, through Scott, Carver, and Dakota counties. Specifically, what you might have seen in years past is that they had meal pickup services or even luncheon programs on site. They have switched that over the years, and now they have senior meals on wheels that ensure that people do have accessibilities, do have access to healthy meals within the county.
Do we have a delivery option here locally through that?
No, other than Humanity Alliance. through
Okay.
that. So yeah, then we removed all the meal pickup locations for that too. And I do believe Meals on Wheels is a program that is delivery, but I would have to find more information on that for them too. But they do work with Victoria. Institute on Aging is no longer offered, so we removed that as part of this. Food Shelf Waconia United is now Gather and Grow, same location. More changes to websites, and then some additional things under home health and maintenance services is that there is a car repair assistance grant through Love Inc. that we included on here. I'm not sure the time frame on this. This does seem to be just a short-term grant through Carver County. to aid those that need help with car repairs or just the financial assistance with car repairs. So this might go away over some time, but I did want to include it now. And then the other one is we offer, the city offers a utility rebate program for purchase of water efficient appliances and fixtures. So with that, we also included Love Inc. as they do have a variety of different networks and resources out there. We didn't include every single resource that they have on there. What Love Inc. really does is they have a network of religious institutions and churches that respond to different specific needs. So if you go on their website or call, they can connect you with maybe a local church that provides things like health and hygiene products, where another one might do clothing or another one might do some furniture. So just that generic resource we added on here to help people get in the right direction.
Do they have a warehouse somewhere where they keep this stuff?
Like I said, they kind of branch it to each of the churches.
Churches
So
do this?
yep. So they have that collection where they more or less say, here's the hub, and then you can go to each of these individual churches. One example is Freshwater Church, based out of Waconia, does this. They have a local furniture depot that they have on their own site that people can come up and buy discounted furniture for them. And then we also added Minnesota Hoarding Task Force as a resource on here as well. And then on another rebate program, Minnesota Valley Electric has their own rebate program. Down below, I believe we included Excel Energy, which is a similar program. They have a senior discount program, not necessarily a rebate program, but both of those services are provided in Victoria. It just depends on your address, so we wanted to make sure that both of those were included. And then the Southwest Metro Lending Library. This is a new resource in Carver County, specifically in the Chaska, Victoria, and Chanhassen area. What this does, and if you haven't looked at it yet, it's actually a really cool resource. So if you can go and look at their catalog of different appliances, tools, whatever you might need. Maybe you want to host a birthday party and you want to have a different or variety of lawn games, but you don't necessarily want to buy all those lawn games. You can rent them from them and pick them up and then just bring them back at either no cost or a low charge. Similar with things with like different types of tools. If you have maybe like a wood shop project that you need, but you don't necessarily want to buy a circular saw, they might have that on hand or something similar. So this just happened recently, or we just found this out late last week, so I will be removing this from the page. But Emerald Crest Memory Care is no longer in Victoria. We are looking, and a new owner has been looking at potential options for that space, but I will be removing that after we get done with this meeting and approve this.
Is the building still there?
The building is still there.
Obviously.
Yep.
But it's empty.
It would be empty. I know they're trying to, and if they haven't done it already, they're working on making sure that it's empty of all residents. Legal is a section I believe we added last year, maybe 2 years ago, but we just extended that to include Carver County's Law Library. It's just a resource that people might not be aware of that happens to just be in the government center in the basement. So they have a ton of free resources, tons of different law books if you haven't been in there before. And then they also have a computer system which has access to a lot of law-related materials that you might have to pay for otherwise.
Can we add the phone number?
It should have the phone number there.
Oh, there it is.
Law
There- I'm sorry.
Minnesota.org, though, does not have a phone number, which is
sorry.
probably what you were looking at.
Yeah.
No.
Patrick, do they have a library in there? that
Yeah.
Manages that?
At the moment, it's vacant, but it's going to be posted soon. Yeah.
Is that used very often? I can't imagine people. Unless you're in prison, you want to be a jailhouse lawyer, you know.
Well, it's often used by attorneys to look up case law. But I've not worked in there, so I just don't know.
Sure.
I know we've been out without someone for 9 months, and no one is screaming.
Huh. Interesting.
There is the Minnesota Elder Justice Center that we included on there this year as well. Changes to phone numbers, websites. The other one that we added for vision is the National Library Service for the blind and print disabled. So this is done by the National Library Service. They have an additional branch from that, if you're familiar with the National Library and the programs that they do, that more or less administers and provides users Braille copies or recorded materials for folks that not necessarily can't see or can't see that well or can handle typical print materials. So it's just another avenue and resource people might be able to reach out to if they're needing that service.
There's also a Minnesota Library for the Blind as well.
Is that separate from the
Yes.
state one?
Well, there's the State Services for the Blind, and then there's the Minnesota State Library for the Blind in Faribault.
Thank you, I'll add that. And then I believe the last major change that was
I'm
made.
sorry, it's the Minnesota Braille and Talking Book Library is the actual title.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We will get that added.
thank you. I should have noticed it 3 years ago.
No worries. There's a lot of things on here. I'm like, how did I not do that before?
Much to know.
There is. There's just a lot of good resources out there. It's hard to sometimes find them. And then the last change, we did add a section for voting and elections. As we did have the election this last year, we just saw an additional number of people that would come up to City Hall just asking, you know, how do I vote? What do I need to know for voting? Where do I vote? Just all those type of questions. Either that or they called us asking similar questions. So we just wanted to provide those resources out there. Obviously, the city, we have an election website that just is like a hub that directs people to each of these links, but we also wanted to provide direct access to, you know, the Carver County Elections Office, who administers the election for Carver County, as well as absentee voting, Minnesota voting registration, and then poll place finder, which is something the Secretary of State's put out. You put in your address and it tells you exactly where you're gonna vote, the address, as well as voting hours and such.
Again, is there a way to add phone numbers for as many of these as possible, just because people who don't have access to them?
If we can find them, we can do that. I believe Elections Office for Carver County does have a phone number. We should be able to add for that. The poll place finder is a resource for the Secretary of State's information, or website. I could add their generic number. I also don't want to add something that might not necessarily direct them to the right space, but I can see if I can find something for that.
Is there a chance of getting a phone number for absentee voting too? So I tried to hunt that up and finally gave up.
I can see if I can find something. The absentee for Carver County should be the Carver County Elections Office.
Okay.
But I'll see if there's anything for the state of Minnesota that's specific, and that's maybe something we add in here too, to your point, Richard. There's a lot of questions about absentee voting. The Secretary of State does have a lot of information about what's allowed, so that could just be another section or another area that we add in here. Yes, we have the Minnesota voting registration, but above that, we could do Minnesota voting absentee information too.
Well, I would just add it to, is it rather adding as a separate thing, if you want to put either Carver County, because it's on the Carver County Elections Office, and just put to learn more about the election process, including absentee voting, or if you want to put it under Minnesota voter registration, in addition to registering on election day or doing absentee ballot, rather than adding a separate. But I think, yeah, that's a question we got a lot at the library this year. Lots of election questions.
So with that, that is all the changes for this year's senior resource guide. Thoughts, changes, recommendations, questions?
And it may not exist anymore, or it may just be a Chan thing. We don't have a section on support groups. I'm just trying, there used to be a caregiver support group, but that may have been based in Waconia.
Are you thinking of Encore?
Yeah, they ran them. That's right. Encore went out of business.
They
That's
did.
right. Okay.
We do have a section for caregiver support.
Yeah.
It's, a lot of these aren't necessarily local because yes, we don't necessarily have Encore anymore based on
Right,
Oklahoma.
right.
If anyone does hear of any more local type of caregiver support groups, please let me know, because I think that would be a great addition to have on here. Because a lot of them are either online based,
Right.
or they're run by the state, or even like federal support, but
Yeah.
not
Okay.
necessarily.
Grief support groups, do we have any grief groups locally? For widows?
That a church runs. I'll check with Mary at Chan Senior Center. She may know of ones that are in the general area. And I know we want this to be as VIC specific as possible, or 800 numbers. But I will check with her. She may know of something.
Listen, I'm just curious. I remember when we started this project, you know, you were doing most of the work on it, but is this like a replica of what other towns are doing so that you can share? And do you look at other communities' resources to see if we got holes?
I would love to say that every city in Minnesota offers something similar to this, but even when we started, it seemed like this was a huge gap, that people don't necessarily have something like this senior resource guide.
Really?
There are some areas that I know I've pulled from in years past where I've gotten at least kind of, where do we start? Like, what kind of section should we have? Should we have a caregiver support section, financial, all those type of things, and then we could plug in the pieces. At this point, I've definitely looked to see if other senior communities or spaces with a senior center have something. I haven't necessarily found that either. Other areas and avenues that I've looked at are just through the state of Minnesota has an extensive senior resource help desk, asking them if they know of any additional resources that have popped up, as well as just looking on our federal sites as well, seeing if there's anything that has popped up for our local area in the last couple of years or so. So when we find new things, it tends to just be, you know, just seeing if there's anything new, not necessarily does this exist elsewhere. And then some of the additions, such as the elections, those are things like what we just heard over the last couple of years. We know that that's a big question. We should probably add something related to that. There's a lot of other community groups that have popped up, and maybe this is actually something I should add. Knowing that there's not a local newspaper, that's another resource that I used to look at, is seeing if there's anything in there. I have been looking at the Waconia Patriot to see if there's anything in that area, but there is this new Carver County local news group that's based out of Chanhassen. The Better Society is more or less organizing it. They could be an additional add to here, is just another way to find more information.
Interesting.
Not necessarily answering your question.
No, you're getting there. So this, is there like a League of Municipalities or something, a professional association for the cities in Minnesota?
There is the League of Minnesota Cities, and that's a general hub of resources when it comes to running a municipality. When it comes into senior services, that's not necessarily a branch they get into. They get into more general coverage of loss and control of recreation programs, not necessarily programs that you should include.
Does that group have like an annual meeting where the city managers go and things like that?
They do have a variety of different conferences. They have their big state conference, and then they also have workshops throughout the year. The one thing I don't know, just because I'm not necessarily tapped into the recreation world, is if there is more focused adult programming groups out there through the state of Minnesota. There's a lot of different types of associations and groups. I'm in one just for assistant city managers.
Yeah.
And I know our parks director and our parks team is engaged in the Minnesota Recreation and Parks Association, and they have a lot of subgroups underneath there related to facility use, to sports associations. They might have something for adults that this might be more geared for, and that we could send around to them to see if they have any additional resources.
Part of the reason why I asked is I think this is impressive, the work that you've done here with a little bit of help from us. And it's worth sharing. I mean, get on the program at one of those professional associations or conferences and say, here's what we did in Victoria. It's worth sharing with other places that want to get started, it might prompt them to, you know,
I would completely agree, and I can't take any credit. This was really the committee's brainchild of, we need this. This is something that, you know, as, if you remember, because you were, well, the only one in this room that started at that time, we had a lot of speakers that had a lot of information, but we didn't necessarily know how to educate the rest of the community about them, or how do we piece them together into a way that we could just pass out to the to the regular community. So this has really been, I don't know, the first big project of this committee, and I think it's been wonderful. And as you guys know, I'm talking to other representatives of Carver County. They've copied this, so just
Yeah.
kind of taken it for their own, because there isn't.
Good, yeah, that's
There
great.
isn't this, yes.
Well, it's worth sharing, is my point. Other places may need to change out some of the stuff, but the basic idea would help them a lot to get started.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is things that we can share, and we have done this in the past. Trellis is our region's kind of Office of Aging. Obviously, Carver County does a Carver County one when we're talking about Hennepin and Carver County in this area. Trellis is what they call it. That used to be the Minnesota Office of Aging, the Minnesota Southwest branch. They've rebranded, and you see the bunch of their resources. We can share that with them as well, and see if they, one, have any additions, because that's always helpful, but two, see if they want to pass this out to the general community.
Maybe we can find a Facebook community,
Yeah.
senior committees. I'll do some research.
I have three small things. One one's a copy edit thing, sorry. I hate copy editing.
You're good.
On the top of this page, meal reservations must be made 7 business days in advance. 7 should be spelled out.
We can do that.
And
I
then,
love having you here, Patrick.
and then if you go to the top, oh, thanks. Just the very first page, I pick up this physical document, but does it tell me where I can find it as an online document?
It does not. That is a wonderful.
So maybe on the page, or if not, have the whole address, at least the City of Victoria's website on the front page. And then the last one is me being greedy, where you have the tool library. That section is we loan out hotspots for people.
Oh, yes.
And that's kind of I forgot what that section is.
You know, we have the,
I know you have the library listed, so like I said, I'm being greedy.
no, I think that's a wonderful resource. And just to say this out loud for people that do not know, Carver County, the library does have a lending for hotspots, and I know around ice fishing time it gets really, really popular while used. But it is available all year round for anyone that
Right.
is looking for that extra resource. I might put that under home services, because that is
Okay.
more of an internet question, and I think we have other things like cyber seniors in that section too. So thanks for bringing that up.
And if you just go to our website, I can either send it to you, or there's a place that says hotspots and it tells you all about them.
Yeah. So, on that line, Alyssa, can you walk us through the city website where this is located? How you would find it if you can just query it at the city site and it'll pop up, or do you have to know how to sort through some pages?
Let me jot down the hotspot edition quick, and then I can definitely go through that. Just don't want to forget. Options for you. It is under community. Under community services, there is a senior resource section.
Okay.
You should be able to search. I'm just going to type in senior and hit enter, and it will be the first one that shows up, as well as you, Senior Advisory Committee. So there are 2 options to find it on the website.
Good, very nice, thank you.
Underneath that, we do have right away the senior resource guide. So this is the older version that people can look at right now. And then we also have senior recreational opportunities that link directly right to our Parks and Recreation registration site. And then just as quick links, we did pull out some generic information we thought would be helpful to have quickly on the page.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So like the senior linkage line, AARP, minnesotahelp.info.
It follows the same organizational frame.
It does, yep.
Perfect. Nice.
Would it be worth scroll back up to the beginning? In the senior resource helpful links? Well, I doubt anyone, no, never mind. No, because my comment would be below is a selected list of state regional resources, blah, 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 blah. Then at the end, to find more resources, and then a link back to
The guide.
the guide.
Could definitely add something like that. Yep.
What does it mean, view current opportunities? Oh, that's the recreation stuff. Okay, sorry, there's one above that, this resource guide.
That's great. I have two suggestions for the guide.
Yes.
Possible addition. In the finance section, I find that a lot of my clients who are seniors don't know that they can apply for a property tax or rental refund or senior tax deferral because their social security check, they just don't, file taxes. And there's a really easy site and phone number that I can send you, Alyssa, for the Minnesota Department of Revenue that they can just call and get that form mailed
That
to
would
them.
be wonderful. Thank you.
The second one is in the Veterans Resource section. There's a little-known agency in Minnesota called SOAR, S-O-A-R. And it's specifically designed for veterans to access veterans and Social Security benefits that they didn't know they had access to. And same thing, there's a website and a phone number. They can call,
Perfect.
and I can send that to you.
We can get both of those added. Thank you.
You're
Anything else?
Last chance, you can always text or email Melissa with any additions. When does this go to press then officially?
We'll probably work on it through the rest of the month. I don't anticipate us taking very long, and we'll probably get it out at least by mid to end December.
Yeah, great. Very nice, good work.
I have a quick question, just because I'm kind of newish here.
Yeah.
Who decides the agenda for 2025?
So that is a great question. So the question is, who sets the agenda for 2025? And obviously, as people who have been around here, they probably know that answer. But there is a work plan that we start going through probably January, February, and March. Maybe not January, February, and March, that we'll start kind of identifying, what is the vision for the committee in the next year. Our committee year starts in April, so then it will end in April. And then that needs to be reviewed and approved by city council. They're the ones that technically set committee direction, obviously with committee suggestions. So we'll get that approved in April, but the committee will start working on it in February.
The work plan then is kind of the agenda for the committee.
For our first
Yeah.
couple
Yeah. Well, it's kind of the agenda for the whole year, but, so yeah, take us to the site and show.
Trying to see if it's on our website even. It might not be. Let me see if I can find it on here.
Okay.
And then, on that note, while you're searching, I'd love to see our senior community locally be part of that work agenda. And I was thinking again, on the paper utility statements that are sent out, in the first couple months of the year, is it possible to send a 1 or 2 page survey to those mailed clients that are getting the mail? And then also add it in the emailed survey section, just asking what would they like to see? And did you know there's a senior resource guide? Did you know we had a rec center? Because when we went through the survey, last time, we realized a lot of people didn't even know that we had either. And I think it'd be great to get their input for our agenda for next year.
I thought this was going to be easier to find. My apologies.
Because it would have been approved in April, right? It would have been on the agenda.
Roughly that time frame. There it is. So smart, Chair.
The metronome.
Good for something. Yeah.
Oh, there we
Wait a second. Oh, it's not even pulling up the attachment, however. Never mind. Thought that was gonna work. Let's try this one instead. There we are. Yes. So this is what we have for 2024, and obviously we'll review this when we get closer to discussing it in more detail in February and March. But obviously the first one is what we just conducted. It's reviewed that resource packet for relevancy and accuracy. Continue to recommend ways to better in our communication efforts.
Suggestion just came forward.
Thank you.
Continue to be that downtown west stakeholder as we start moving forward with that conversation and progression. Walking trails and routes, that's something we're going to kick back up again starting in January. In 2023, we did that walking route audit as a committee. Now we're going to go through and actually have some sort of study that we're going to have put together, so we have recommendations that then we can bring to either the Parks Committee, or once we're updating walking trails, walking maps, things like that we're including in there. The second to last one is continue to engage with the Carver County Office of Aging. As you know, we try and have a representative at every meeting, but they do have a vacancy right now, which I did get a message from them saying they're hoping to share the good news soon. And then the last one is explore what a senior facility could look like in Victoria, which has been a lot of our discussions this year is related to the recreation center and the future of that space. So that is for 2024 up until April of 2025.
Any other items, comments, questions? We're going to need a motion then to approve the resource guide as presented and amended. Anybody want to make that motion?
So move.
Richard, thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Alina. All those in favor of approval of the updated resource guide, say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed, same sign. It carries. We'll get the new guide ready to roll. And now we'll move down to other business. Does anyone have other business to bring before the committee today? Anything from you, Alyssa?
None for me, Chair.
Okay, let's move on to adjournment then. We need a motion to adjourn. We got lots of choices here. Thank you. And a second? It's moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Motion carries and we're adjourned.